Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Physiology of Endurance Running podcast. Today, we're going to be speculating about the future of endurance training and of sports science. We both got a list of a few things that we think may happen in the next few years, changes that may take place. I guess hold us to account in a few years. Hopefully, the podcast is still going, and maybe we revisit this one in I don't know. 2030 maybe? Nice round number.
5 years, I reckon. 5 years.
2031.
I think then you get, then you can see what's just noise, what's acute trends over the season, or what is long term.
Yeah.
What direction things are going in.
Yeah. So we're gonna be doing a bit more speculating rather than looking at necessarily evidence today. But this is what we think we might be dealing with in 5 years' time, where we think training in the sport may have gone.
Yeah, well, I think it's always interesting to think, isn't it? Like, where are things going to go? What are just trends in a flash of a pan, and what is going to stick around? Training has changed quite a lot, I would say, over the last 10 years. Definitely lactate guided training, threshold training, all that sort of stuff. That wasn't talked about 10 years ago.
Yeah. I guess when I was thinking about this, I thought, imagine if in spring 2020 or 2016, you were speculating about like the future, and then 2 months later, super shoes come along. Like that completely, and then by 2021, that's the entire like shoe world, isn't it? That's the direction it's gone. So I think that's the sort of changes that we're maybe thinking might happen.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be interesting as well. Actually, is it going to look very similar? Maybe we've sort of plateaued and we're at a new level, and it's going to sit like this for a decade, and then there'll be something else, some big intervention like shoe tech, which will have a step change in the running culture performance space.
Yeah. Before we get to that, should we say some thank yous?
Yeah, go on, kick us off.
Yeah. Today's episode is sponsored by Soar. Soar are the creators of the world's best running apparel, and we're really excited to be partnering with them on a giveaway for the month of August. So following the link in the show notes or on our Instagram bio, for your email address, you're able to enter a prize draw for a pair of Rion Marathon speed shorts, which Dan is a big fan of. We'll get to that in a second, his thoughts. And you'll also get a code for 15% off your next store order. So you can upgrade your wardrobe for what's left of summer or start to prepare for winter. At the end of the month, one entrant will be selected and will be sent a pair of the speed shorts, which Dan, I believe you wore them in Seville. Do you want to give your review of them?
I wore them for Valencia and for Seville and for London. And they are the best in terms of fit, in terms of comfort, in terms of storage. You can fit so many gels in there, and they're not bouncing around. Really, really good product. Retail price, I've got it on my website here, £200. So not a bad price as well. But even if you're not going to win in the competition, if you're going to invest in one bit of kit for your autumn marathon, this is what I would invest in.
Yeah, there's something we talk about, isn't it? That you potentially spend a lot of money on shoes, on flights, on gels, loads of time training. And ideally you're on the start line in a pair of shorts that are comfy, that look good. And in this case, actually benefit you in terms of the gel carrying capacity. You can load yourself up with, I reckon, 300 grams of carbs easy. And not have it bouncing around, not have pockets all over the place. Really, really comfy, and enables you to run your best. So definitely a worthwhile investment. One lucky person, they'll get a pair for free. So check out the link in the show notes. And thank you as always to Soar for sponsoring the podcast.
So we're also grateful for the support of Currents. If you are a runner focused on the finer details of performance, recovery, and long-term health, you want to know more about Currents, a new powerhouse in polyphenol nutrition for endurance athletes. Currents is a New Zealand blackcurrant extract that's been recognised as the European Sports Nutrition Product of the Year, and it's become a favourite among runners of all levels, from everyday marathon runners right through to elite ultra-endurance athletes. Backed by over 60 human trials, Currens has built a reputation in the running community for its broad-ranging research-led benefits. It's trusted by athletes who put their bodies under serious stress, including World 24-hour champion Sarah Webster. I used it myself in the run-up to my 2:11 marathon PB in Seville and genuinely felt a difference in my rate of recovery and consistency in training. Currens is easy to use, batch tested, and suitable for runners across the spectrum, whether you're training for your first 10K, chasing a marathon PB, or pushing the limits in ultras. To receive 15% off your first purchase of Currens, use code physiology15 at currens.com.
Yeah.
What are we going to kick us off then in terms of...
I was just going to say as well, I just think we haven't mentioned in a few weeks our Patreon. Worth having a look if you want extra content. Just scrolling through there now at the time of recording, got a monthly newsletter. I did an audio diary when I was in Portugal with the Welsh Athletics camp. So if you want to hear my descent into tiredness across a 10-day training camp, that's on there. We do a weekly training talk episode as well. And then we started doing paper breakdowns every fortnight. So either me or Dan, breaks down a piece of research. We are starting to take some suggestions as well about the research papers that we do break down. At the moment, we've sort of been diving into stuff that we are interested in. So there's loads of content on there as well. If you want more sports science content.
Yeah, head to patreon.com and search for Physiology of Endurance Training Podcasts. Or is it Endurance Collective?
Endurance Collective on there. It's in the show notes.
Yeah, head to the show notes. That's the best place to go. Am I due a paper breakdown?
Yeah, I think you are. At the time of recording, I've got a spare one.
Is it this weekend, or was it supposed to come out last weekend?
No, this weekend, I think.
That's all right. That's all right.
It's become a planning meeting, this episode.
Yeah. In all seriousness, I've really enjoyed yours. I've been good. And I had some good feedback from mine. I'm enjoying actually just having a purpose to go and really break down a paper. We've done some nice ones, I think, like some good. I always try and pick a paper which is actually going to have impact on your performance. It's not just obviously it's quite interesting. It's this is interesting, but there's some meaningful takeaways which you can bring into your own training. And then, what was my most recent one? I can't even remember what I did now.
I think it was strength training, right?
Oh, that was it.
Yeah. Whereas I've got more the environmental side. I think you just see where our interests maybe lie and like what papers we're reading just on our own time, right? But yeah, I went with ice baths for my last one. Just because especially it was being talked about at the World Cup, and then actually on the training camp I was on, that was a feature as well. So a piece of research on what the impact of an ice bath is. Hopefully some interesting listening if you want more content.
Yeah. I know Owain's been supporting a Welsh Athletics camp out in Portugal. He's been doing jogs with European champions. I get all that gossip over.
Wasn't a jog for me.
No, do max for Owain.
Yeah.
Cool. So where do you want to start us off with, Ben? And what we tackling first in the future?
I think you suggested some themes. I just wrote down like sort of 3 ideas plus a few fun ones. Well, I'll chuck out a fun one first. This isn't a problem for you. This is probably a problem for people listening. I think by 2031 we will have hit peak running, and we'll be on the decline. So it'll actually be possible to get into races again. You won't have to plan your life 2 years in advance to get into.
Is that a prediction or a hope?
A bit of both, I think. That was one of my fun ones. I think you put training as the top one. And I thought that by 2031, I think we may have a bit of a better understanding of lactate. And where I sort of went with this was using it, especially in the field. So I think at the moment, and this is a theme that comes up with us a lot, is that you take a lactate reading, and some people take, make quite black and white, decisions or interpretations. Yeah, that's the right word, of that reading. But actually, you're inferring quite a lot from that reading, and there's a lot going on within your muscle and within the mitochondria that influences the number that you get at a finger prick sample. I think we'll maybe have a bit of a better understanding, and I even thought maybe a way of measuring, are you someone that's very well aerobically developed and you're able to actually shift a lot of lactate out of your muscle to then get into your bloodstream to use as fuel. And actually you might see a slightly higher lactate reading than someone that isn't able to do that. Or whether, understanding how much of that remains in the muscle as fuel. I think all of those things aren't known. Maybe we'll have a bit of a better idea and then be able to have a slightly more accurate, I guess, would it be like a prognosis from that lactate reading, and just you as an athlete in general will be able to understand a bit more, me versus you. I might see slightly higher readings because I'm not as aerobically developed and not able to, reuse that lactate as fuel, or I'm producing, more. I think there'll be a bit of a better understanding rather than just a finger prick sample and then a lot of guesswork.
Yeah, I think that actually we have that collectively, we have that understanding, but I don't think many athletes do. I think that I think practitioners understand it, but down to the people who are actually taking lactates on themselves day to day, there's still a lack of understanding. It's this whole, I'm going to go for 1.5 to 2 millimole in the morning of my double threshold session, and 2.5 to 3.5 in the afternoon. That's not how you should be using lactate. And 3.5 for me is going to mean different to 3.5 for you. So I think that level of understanding will go up. But what I actually think will happen in the lactate space is that continuous lactate monitors will be here by 5 years' time. They'll be well embedded, but there's going to be an explosion of even more noise, because what people think they're going to show you is not what is going to be very different getting continuous lactate data versus a spot check at the end of a couple of reps in a session. And there's going to be a whole nother evolution and time period that's going to be needed to learn how to interpret continuous lactate data and make good decisions based upon that versus the spot checks. So I think that's where that space is going to go.
Yeah, I think so. I think, we're probably going to go through for us a frustrating period, I think, in terms of the sort of mainstream, I don't want to say use, but discussion around using lactate. And I think we're probably going to be sat here thinking, don't really need that.
I've increasingly seeing a lot of this, just technology, which I just don't see a use case for. Like, maybe it works, maybe it's quite cool and novel, but actually, is it helping you make good decisions or describing the training you're doing? Not very much. Not very much. There's so much of that, isn't it? There's this cool, sexy stuff, giving you loads of outputs. And even if they're actual real outputs and accurate, precise, what do you do with that information?
Yeah, something popped up on my Instagram of a continuous lactate monitor that's on your thigh. So I need to.
So I've heard. I saw this, and apparently, what it is, it's basically a muscle oxygenation thing.
Yeah,
and they're just inferring the lactate from the muscle oxygenation, but giving you a lactate number. So it's absolute crap.
Yeah, it's nonsense.
It's just nonsense.
The main selling point seemed to be that it was on your Garmin, which, cool. You get a lot of not useful information on your Garmin.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I always think with the stuff like the running biomechanics data that Garmin gives you, right? But what am I supposed to do with that information?
Yeah.
How
it's
is
not
that
actionable,
useful?
is it?
Like, no. My vertical oscillation, what am I going to do with that number?
Yeah.
I guess,
unless you're Jake Smith.
I'll move on from there. Yeah. I mean, I think more generally, what would be interesting to see where we go in terms of training is, at the minute, there is this big theme of high mileage, especially for marathon runners. I think at one point, elites were expected to be doing 100 to 120 miles per week, up to 200K a week. Whereas I sort of see that most marathon runners now, professional marathon runners, think 200K is the minimum. And people are doing way more than that, and actually more like 230K, 240K isn't unheard of at all. And I wonder, will that continue, or will we get a rebound from that? Are we going to be seeing people doing actually 250, 260K, like 140, 150 miles a week, and that's just the norm? or are we going to revert to going, actually, that was a bit too much, and go lower? What do you
Yeah.
reckon?
Yeah, I guess it will be driven by performances, won't it? I guess we tend to take a UK centric bias, and I think that mileage at the moment is driven by what we're seeing the guys at the top end doing. Um, so yeah, it'll be, if someone goes and runs, yeah, 20, I don't know for Brits now, 205, and they're doing 160 miles a week, then you'll probably see 10 more people do that, right? That would be where it goes. But if someone goes and runs 205 off 100 miles a week, then 100 miles a week and some cross training, then that might be where it goes as well.
Yeah. I think high mileage is here to stay. I think there's a combination of fueling revolution, the shoe technology, which will just continue to get better,
Yeah.
allowing and better intensity control. People will be realizing, well, actually, if I get all this stuff right, I can do more miles, because running is still a low volume sport versus cycling or triathlon. Although I think the other direction it could go is using cross training more to add in the volume. So will people be doing, actually, I'll be doing 160k, 100 miles of running, but then I'll be doing 10 hours of cross training.
Yeah. So I mean, pretty related. One of the discussions at the training camp was how, like, maybe it'd be beneficial for runners that are, normally through an injury forcing it, but like getting a bike fit would be beneficial to their actual cross training. Because you always hear people, like, they go to the gym and it's like, oh, I struggle to cross train on the bike, but it's like, what position are you in? Are you actually in a good position? Are your legs really struggling because you're in a completely, like, mental position? And it's going to feel, the best cyclists in the world will struggle if they're in a really bad cycling position.
It's when you
And
get
yeah,
like
and
Olympians, and they're really having an injury, and they're on a crappy gym bike, aren't they? Not even like a watt bike, just one of those really bad bikes that you don't see the power. It's just setting resistance.
yeah, and you need 4 measurements to, like, set up a bike pretty decently. And I think like, for, side discussion, but I think that should probably be being done a bit more. But then, as you say, in terms of going the other way and doing lots of cross training, like two of the best runners in the UK at the moment, Georgia Hunter Bell, Alex Yee, are doing a lot of time on the bike, and they are approaching the cycling like a professional cyclist, or professional triathlete in Alex's case does, where some of it is kit related. They got really decent kit, and they train in sort of the same way, rather than going out on the bike and just smashing themselves like runners maybe tend to do.
Yeah.
So I think there's like I don't know if it's like a barrier to entry, but I think having the right equipment to do it properly, I think, makes it beneficial and worthwhile. But it's if you're like, if you are limited by funds, and you're just like on a really old mountain bike and just rinsing yourself for 40 minutes, that's not really, that's completely not comparable to what they're doing.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it is it's less the equipment and more the knowledge, isn't it?
Yeah.
Of how to actually execute. I mean, I've always had a background in cycling, in terms of, I used to race cyclocross. I've always owned a mountain bike. I feel like I understand the sport reasonably well. Not as much as you, I don't think, but I get cycling. Whereas if you've never done it before, I do think it's hard for runners to understand intensity if you go from running to cycling.
Yeah. And yeah, like you say, like the knowledge, and I think the knowledge then drives like what you end up riding and using. But yeah, no, I think there'll be more of an openness. It won't be a go to it as a last ditch. It will be a more
This is part of the
become,
structured plan, is to do cross training.
But as you say as well, I guess on the same theme, there's probably, and I think probably driven by where the standards are going to go in the sort of the distances that at the moment are being run on the track in the Olympics. Maybe by 2032, will that be an Olympic year? There will, you won't have the 5K and 10K on the track. Maybe they'll be out on the road, but those standards for Brits again are so fast that maybe it's just, you just go straight to the marathon. Like that
We're
that
seeing
just
that already, aren't we?
yeah, and that just becomes the thing. And then actually, yeah, those bigger mileage training blocks and with along with the shoes and growing up in that becomes more normal.
Yeah. I think in summary, more mileage, more cross training. I think that's a pretty safe bet. Some combination of the two, more running and or more cross training. But I think
Yeah.
probably more cross training.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on intensity? I mean, like the intensity component of training. There's such a big, heavy emphasis on threshold.
Do,
What do you reckon? Is that hype or is that long term?
do you
Because
think we'll be doing
we both do a lot of threshold training. We both prescribe a lot of threshold training. But if we're talking about elites, what direction is it going to go in?
do you think double VO2?
Well, I think yeah, it could be an option. Do you think there's going to be more or less threshold training?
I think the shoes and the nutrition probably enable more, I would say. It's whether if cross training becomes more common, then actually you can do more higher intensity on the bike. And again, you do the types of sessions that the professional cyclist will do, which is, like will be a lot more time at that 90% of VO2 max, but over a way bigger period of a training session that you can't do when you're running. So maybe that is how you can add more intensity.
Yeah, but I think to actually do the actual intensity on the bike for a runner, you need to spend the hours on the bike to just be able to learn how to ride a bike.
Yeah.
I mean, if I go and try and do intensity on the bike, I'm so peripherally limited. My muscular system is just so out of whack with my VO2, like my cardiac output, and I just can't get my heart rate anywhere near my max when I'm riding. So I think that could be an option, but I reckon it needs to be a part of the whole system. It's not where I'm going to tack on some VO2 max sessions on the bike in combo with the running.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think threshold is becoming a bit overrated. I think it's really important, but it's not the only thing. And there's people doing exclusively threshold who could probably benefit from doing a very careful amount of, threshold plus. Is that what Jakob calls it? LT2 plus work. I quite like it.
That's what Jen calls it on Training Talk.
Well, I don't really like. I'm guilty of calling a session a VO2 max session the other day on my Strava, but I actually don't like the term because it's just not. What does that mean? It's not really anchoring anything in terms of what do you mean in terms of VO2 max? Because speed at VO2 max, well, you'd normally say that's about 2 to 3K race pace. But actually, if you want to really drive VO2 max adaptations, you're probably better off working at 10K to 5K pace, because you can do so much more work without the same amount of volume.
Do you think it just becomes a lot more common to like have part of a session capped at threshold heart rate or threshold respiratory rate if you're using if time wave becomes more widely used, but you have part of the session capped by that and then part that's not, and that's the way to do it as well. Maybe every session is like that and you get a bit of threshold and then a bit of above threshold, but that's how it's prescribed as well, rather than the classic like paces, like equivalent race paces.
Yeah, I've started certainly over the summer giving quite a lot of my athletes something like 5 to 6 times 6 minutes, and then just 6 to 8 times 30 seconds at the end. Not flat out, but hard. You're going to get that mechanical stimulus, and you can do that stuff all year round. It's not going to hurt you. It's very low risk, but mechanically you're getting something quite different. Just staying in touch with those faster speeds, that neuromuscular system. I think that's probably really good for your economy. And as someone who always struggles with speed and power, for me, I think it would have been useful all these years to do a bit of threshold work and just add some more intensity at the end when you're warmed up, you're ready to go. It doesn't need to be like high lactate stuff. You're just running some 30-second reps at somewhere from 3K to 1500 meter pace. It doesn't hurt you that much. And it's very low risk as long as you're doing it regularly.
Yeah.
Yeah. because I just see I don't think you can just keep doing more threshold, like infinite threshold. That's what people joke about, right? Is that what coffee clubs say? Someone says
Yeah,
about,
infinite
talks about
threshold.
infinite
Yeah,
threshold, triple threshold. What? I don't know. I just think there's limits to what you can do in that space. I think you can, but you can just can't keep pulling that lever indefinitely.
yeah,
Cool. So high mileage, still lots of threshold, but maybe a touch more intensity in there. I reckon that's the future. The next
yeah,
5 years.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ready?
Cool.
Is that the trading ticked off?
I think so. Yeah, yeah, I reckon so. What do you want to do
Strength
next?
training? Is that going up or down? In the stock market, is strength training going up or down?
Probably up. Probably probably gets better, I think. Um, yeah, in terms of the different the different ways to do it, different things you can do, periodizing it around sessions as well, I think probably gets a bit better. Just the information filters out. Again, just observations from the training camp. Like there's a lot more, we talk about you guys wind me up about barely doing 2 sessions a week, but um you can have like a specific like strength program based around what you're doing each day and what's coming the next day. Um, that's not just doing a couple of the sort of the first strength sort of moves that you think of. Um, yeah, like things like isometric holds and stuff like that. Um, yeah, that's why I'm sort of thinking like those are being done after sessions.
Mm,
So yeah, I think stuff like that maybe gets more mainstream as well.
yeah. I think at the elite level, when we've got infinite time, it
Yeah,
becomes something you do every day, but microdosing style, right? There are things that you can do every day. Like your calves, for example, they're so fatigue resistant, you could load them pretty heavy. I'm not saying you do that every day, but you can load that much more frequently compared to doing something that's really quads, hamstring, glute dominant, and is going to give you lots of soreness and really interrupt your training. I think I reckon, yeah, more strength, but a better incorporated into the program, smarter way of doing it.
yeah, yeah, exactly. What should we move
Right.
on to now?
Yeah. What's your next? You pick. What are you doing next?
I guess I called it. Well, you put technology, but I'm going to include kit in here. I reckon that at the top end and mass market, there's a lot more. I called it shoe customization, but I think more like shoe options. I think you will be able to get the same shoe, but with things like different plate stiffnesses, or I know with the plates in super shoes, a lot of it is based on, or a lot of the benefit is based on where the apex of the plate is. And it might be that you can get a shoe with the plate, at different percentages through the shoe, and then looking at like On does custom uppers, right? I think that's probably going to become a bit more common, especially at the top end. I think that's going to be a bigger part of the footwear that you see, that it's not just you know not just one upper that the person at the front of the Olympics is wearing, and you know us buying it off of sports shoes is wearing. I think there'll be a lot more customization, because in the elite end at the moment they can customize the upper, can't they? So there's no reason that doesn't exist now, apart from I guess like economies of scale. So I think that will probably be a lot more common, I think.
Yeah. Uh, it's interesting. I don't know. I think it is just about scalability of it. And is it via maybe at the elite level, but on a commercial level, is it viable to make personalized stuff? I don't know. It's going to be increasingly easier, like everything, with technology evolving, to make it personalized. And maybe there is, you have an app on your phone and you do a virtual scan of your foot, and then it gets shipped off that print gets shipped off to a factory, which just spits out 3D printed style. I
Yeah.
I can see that happening, but
And maybe even if it's just a grouping of 4 or 5 different foot shapes, but there will be just more than like the Alpha Fly that is being worn at the Olympics is also exactly the same one that's for sale. I think
Yeah.
that'll probably be. I think that will be more common.
Yeah. Well, I've heard it. Like people, like the meta speeds, for example, like reasonably narrow. Like quite, if you've got wide feet, you just can't wear that shoe really. So that might actually be the best shoe for someone, but for the reason of just the upper is not fit for that person, they can't wear it. So yeah, maybe you're right. That's if you can actually sell more shoes by having a more custom fit, that makes sense, or at least more options.
Yeah.
And New Balance, always used to do different whips, didn't they?
Yeah, I think you can get a couple of the super shoes. I think it might be On does a wide fit in their super shoe. One of them
Yeah.
definitely does. But yeah, I had a fun kit technology one as well. I
Go
reckon
on.
this is inspired from Training Talk yesterday when we recorded. I think there's a lot more focus on aerodynamics, especially in the marathon. I think
Nah, I don't.
skin suits, arm sleeves. I think we're looking like a long course triathlon by
Yeah.
2031.
Are we wearing helmets? Are we wearing
Maybe.
helmets?
Is that
Yeah.
allowed? I don't know if you
Can I
can.
wear
I don't know what,
hats?
yeah, or
Yeah.
you could wear a baseball cap that's like shaped to shape the air off the back of your head. I think someone just does it and runs a good race, and then you'll end up with the what like long course triathlon has gone through, where people then copy. So someone will actually get an aero position on a bike sorted, then people will copy the characteristics without understanding that doesn't work for them, and you'll see all sorts of nonsense, and then eventually it will level out. But like I think there might be something there.
But do you see when Solomon came out with their super shoe and and with their the marketing that it was the most aerodynamic shoe ever, and they just got slated, didn't they? It absolutely got blasted.
I'm
But
sure it's pretty easy to model the energy cost of a slightly more aerodynamic shoe. I mean, like you've got Jimmy Whelan wearing aero socks. I mean, that's the first step.
yeah, well, he's come from cycling, isn't he? I don't know. Yeah, I think I can see it happening, but you wouldn't. I just don't think it's actually going to add anything meaningful to performance.
I don't know. We'll see. Someone needs to get down to Silverstone in the wind tunnel, and yeah, that's my fun one though. We'll see. We'll see if we're wearing aero suits. Maybe Saw will make club aero suits by 2031.
I can see it on the track. I think it makes more sense on the track. The speeds are so fast, aren't they?
Yeah,
they
but
are
then
comparable to what the peloton are riding at on an easy day, aren't they?
Yeah.
When Josh Kerr's running a mile in 3:42.
Yeah, I think that the increase in distance means that even a small benefit, even a tiny benefit, will have a benefit over 42K. But
yeah,
that's my fun one.
And then you reckon there's gonna be like 5-hour marathon runners wearing the same speed.
maybe skin suits becoming the norm is what leads to the downfall of running. So actually, it's beneficial.
Right, to bring it back to some level of seriousness, I think shoe tech is going to keep evolving, but I think there's a limit to how much faster the shoes are going to make you. There's obvious they've got these constraints in place by World Athletics. It can't be more than 40 mil stack height. You can only have one carbon fiber plate. There's a limit to what you can do with those constraints. But I reckon our understanding of shoes will get better in that there'll be very specific use cases for different shoes. This shoe does deload your hamstring, calf, Achilles, like your posterior chain. That will be prescribed very specifically if, like, the day after a hard session on the track where you've been running in spikes. And they'll be marketed as such, not just, right, people have discovered that this shoe is good at deloading X. It's, but there's going to be a better, like, more systematic rotation that you can go to, and there'll be like evidence behind it. That's where I reckon shoe tech will go. Like, you just can't. They've got to put this investment and R&I into something, and I don't think it will continuously be right. Make this shoe 0.0001% more economical for the average user.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, like the more understanding that shoes are specific tools to use.
That's what I think. And having actually some low profile options and really hard shoes for doing your plyometrics, your drills, your strides, all that sort of stuff, and really overloading that neuromuscular system. Because in a minute, you can't even buy those shoes. I've got a pair of Saucony fast twitches from like 8 years ago, which I've just kept because sometimes that is the best tool option for doing that explosive stuff.
Yeah. I guess again, that's probably driven by like the top end, right? Saying we want this, and then there's a marketing angle from that.
Yeah. You need an elite athlete to come out and say, I've been using this really old shoe to fit a purpose that you're not providing. And there needs to be a market for it, doesn't it? There needs to be a market to drive that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and probably the right athlete as well, because I think something we've discussed is that like that's again, like I feel like I mean it's Tour de France has just finished, it's on our minds, but like I think there's a more openness to using equipment as a tool in cycling, whereas I think there's a lot of elite runners that just put on a shoe because it's a shoe, and that's that shoe got sent to me by the brand that sponsors me. I'm just going to put it on and not ask questions. So you need the right people as well to be thinking, no, I can optimize this.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm guilty of literally just using 2 shoes across my whole training block, but I do think that you can be smarter with it, and people will increasingly be smarter with it.
Yeah, but like if we go back to our first theme where you're talking about 160 miles a week, I think you do have to optimize what's under your feet. And I don't know, maybe there's a good way of tracking shoe longevity as well. I mean, it probably doesn't matter if if you've got a nice big contract with a shoe brand and you can get shoes sent whenever you want, probably matters less. But yeah, like at least for them, like tracking, okay, this shoe is now impacting my ability to run that mileage. I need to change it.
Yeah. Well, what do you reckon? We're going to get 60 mil stack height shoes for training days.
I mean, maybe if it's practical.
There's obviously going to be a sweet spot there. You can't just end up working on a 10 centimeter high platforms.
You would have thought an engineer at one of the shoe brands would have just gone to the absolute max and been like, okay, this doesn't work, and like works backwards, rather than like, okay, this is what's happening with like bike tire size. Like it's just gradually creeping up, but like there's other people that have just been like, what's the max? Like set that and then work backwards to optimize. So I'm sure one shoe brand has some crazy engineer that's just done like an 80 mil shoe. And it's like, yeah, this doesn't work, but that's the top limit. And now we work down.
The thing is, there's only so many brands that have got the sort of budget to go and do that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You're talking Nike and Adidas, basically.
Yeah.
And then I reckon your best hope is it coming out of a new up and coming Chinese brand.
Yeah. Might not be Chinese by that point. Might be a
Indian.
different country.
South African, I don't know, South American, I don't know. Anyway, wearables then. What are your thoughts on wearables? Where are we going with wearables?
Garmin's still rubbish. Yeah, I don't know. I guess, we said continuous lactate monitoring, like probably end up with a watch that's got loads of different data. It's been more than 5 years since Stride existed, right? The running power has been, that's pre-COVID, right? So
yeah,
that's taken more than 5 years to figure out. I don't know what other measures that would be worthwhile that you could want, because the biomechanical measures have been looked at in a lab setting, and none of them correlate to performance, to running economy, right? That's the big Bas van Horen paper.
Yeah. Like cadence is one of the biggest effect size, and it was still negligible.
Yeah, and like they looked at like knee angle and stuff as well, but you're not going to be able to get that from a watch very well.
No.
Yeah, so
it's interesting you mentioned strides, because you would have think that if that was where the market was going to go, it would have been adopted more. And I still feel like it hasn't. And actually, if you look at their marketing now, it was all about power. Power's better than pace. And it's not about that now. It's more about calculating the loads your body's under, like from a neuromuscular system, and using that to guide injury risk and controlling how much training you're doing, not from the physiological perspective, but more about the load, which I think there's something in that. I think that's a better way to go, because I just don't think power is ever going to be the thing in running. And we've spoken about
Yeah.
it before. It's always just reverse engineered gas exchange data. And it's not specific to the individual. It's just, there's going to be so much room for error there, but it's not that practical and usable.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's not necessarily power, but it's about like force application through a shoe. Maybe that's because at the moment you get like load soles, right? That look, we've both run with them on. They're like these really weird, like leather insole things that, like, when I put them on, I felt like I was slipping around in the shoe because they're not grippy like a normal insole. And they can measure, where the load of a stride is going. Maybe that's where we get into. Maybe there's accelerometers in your shoes. I don't know.
Yeah.
That might be
maybe
if you can see that your ground contact time and like your load through a certain part of the shoe is increasing, that suggests you're fatigued. That might be a way to do it.
I think a few companies have come out with pods now to go on your foot, and that's not really taken off because people can see very similar data just from their watches now because people have done this reverse engineering and stuff. I think there'll be a lot more computed variables trying to measure load. And by that, I mean like that physical load. And it will just be reverse engineered from looking at the pace, the gradient. But it's more stuff you look at retrospectively rather than in real time. So you go, oh, actually, in terms of in terms of joules of force, this is how much your Achilles experienced during that run relative to what you've done over the last 6 months. I shouldn't be kilojoules, newtons. There's how many newtons of force that
Tell not biomechanists.
No, exactly. I'm a physiologist. I'm using kilojoules. There's how many newtons of force that you've been exposed to. And actually, when you're planning your next session, you don't want to be any above this level for it to be within like what we expect to be safe for you. So I reckon actually it becomes less about the hardware, more about the software. I think lactate, that's going to be a thing. It's never going to be mainstream, is it? But I think that will be at the elite level. That continuous lactate will be a thing. But I don't think it's going to become, I think it'll be a thing within 5 years, but it'll become useful in 10 years. That's my prediction.
Yeah.
For most people.
It'll be interesting to see. I still don't like, what would you do if your lactate goes up during a run and then comes down? Like, yeah.
That's what I mean. You're going to see this
yeah.
data, you're going to see these kinetics, and people are going to go, well, what am I going to do with that? It's like the continuous glucose stuff. People were panicking that they were seeing big spikes in their glucose after eating a normal meal. But that's just what happens after you eat a meal. Your glucose goes up, and your insulin goes up and pulls down the blood glucose into a normal range. And people are going to see this they're going to be doing a threshold session, and it'll feel like a 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10. The heart rate is where you'd expect it to be. The paces look pretty normal. And they're going to see a big spike in their lactate on rep 1, and they're going to be going, but this is controlled. This is threshold. Why am I getting a big spike in my lactate? But that is just the kinetics of lactate during a harder session. It's going to spike at the start of a session, and you're going to have a small spike at the start of every rep. And then you're going to get data that looks more like this muscle oxygenation data, which is actually really hard to interpret in real time because you've got to make judgments on, was this stable or is this not stable? It looks sort of stable, but is that because I'm squinting? I don't know.
Imagine if you had the gas data trace on your watch whilst you're running. You'd be like, what am I going to do with this?
If anyone's ever seen gas data, it's really noisy. That's why you do 3 to 5 minute stages and average it for 2 minutes to get a really clean signal.
And you need a pretty big screen to still like interpret that, not a watch.
Exactly. If you've got a lactate value, it's flicking around from somewhere between 6 millimole and 3 millimole. It's impossible to make an interpretation on that. And you see it slowly going up, slowly going down. But is that because I'm just starting a rep? Is it because I'm working too hard? I don't think it's actually going to be as useful as people think it will be.
No. No, we've
Anyway, we've
talked
talked
ourselves
enough
out of it
about
now.
that. Yeah.
Actually, I think coming back to spend a lot of time talking about lactate this episode, which is fairly normal for us. I think again, like something kind of sort of picked up on the camp. There might be more. I don't know whether it results in some research or even just a case study sort of style paper, but like taking lactate data from sessions that aren't just lactate guided in terms of like there'll maybe be a bit more interest and willingness to like, okay, you're doing again like the sessions that like the 800 runners were doing, which are 300 rep with like 6 minutes rest. But it's like, okay, let's take a couple of lactates during immediately after and then a couple of minutes after, and maybe a bit of a systematic collection of that data across probably takes a training group at a university with the ability to do that, because maybe you want to use something like a bias and like more of a lab based device. But yeah, maybe using that data, because I was thinking when I was like out there taking these lactates, be just quite interesting to compare the magnitude of change across reps if you're doing a similar session. Not necessarily looking at the absolute number, but just the behavior within sessions, and maybe what we think of now as lactate guided training, and we call it lactate guided threshold training because you're looking at around that lactate turn point. Actually, there's like lactate guided training that's above that as well, because you're looking at the behavior. But I don't know, maybe you just end up getting 2 years of data and it'd just be completely useless. But I think that might be an interesting exercise.
Before you dig into that, and we dig into that, you don't have to tell us who, but what was the highest lactate number you saw on the camp?
I think I've got it written down. Hold on. I think it was in the 20s. I didn't take many lactate samples, but let me have a look.
He's getting his notebook out.
17. 17.
That's pretty high, isn't it? The
Yeah.
problem is with those high intensity measures is that Lactate Pro 2s and all these handheld devices just aren't that accurate and reliable in that those ranges. They are built to be most reliable in that 1 to 6 millimole range, and the error just gets massive once you start getting up to like 20 millimole. So I do think you need a bias in. I mean, those Soviet Union were doing loads of this sort of stuff, like looking at the lactate response to really high intensity work, and that's the whole VLA max type system of looking at high intensity. I think there's definitely more stuff there than what's been done with it.
Yeah, if you have, because the bias in samples last a while, you don't have to test them immediately. So takes a couple of students at University of Birmingham or Loughborough to go out with their high performance groups for 2 years and just get the data, and especially if you correlated it with athlete performances across that as well, probably be quite interesting. You'd do a paper breakdown on that if that came out as a paper.
Oh yeah, I'd do it. It would be nice just to have the data without any actual analysis, wouldn't it?
Yeah, actually, maybe I'll chuck in a thing, sports science, like research related. Just there'll be more case studies because there's not really many at the moment, is there? Like
they're not that common now.
Yeah, like practitioner. I think some journals are making a push for that, where practitioners write about write in a systematic way what they're doing and why.
So I think there will be less case studies in the main journals, and there will be a case study journal. That's what I reckon.
I'd subscribe to that.
Because the reason why there's less case studies is because there's more and more pressure from universities to put out high impact research. And a case study is never going to be a high impact research by the nature of being a case study. It's relevant to that one individual and may tell us some stuff, but it's never going to change the world, a case study.
I don't know. There might not be many universities left in 2031.
Not in the UK anyway.
There might be some in 2031 because the next ref cycle, which is like where universities get funding, ends in 2029. So I don't know. Maybe there's like a couple of years where you can sneak in a few case studies before you need to put out your high impact stuff.
Maybe.
Yeah.
physiology testing? Do you reckon it'll be more or less about like lab-based testing?
I hope there's more. um, I think so, and I think I don't know if it's better quality.
So at the
Would be my
minute, I
thought.
think we're seeing massive growth, but it's mostly shit quality. As in, it's somebody in a gym with a lactate meter who doesn't know how to interpret it. Not trying to offend anyone here. There will be people who are doing a really good job of it in that environment, but that's what I see pop up loads. And I get sent tests from all over the place. And I would say 50% of them were a complete waste of time because or maybe not a complete waste of time if you've got someone who actually knows what they're doing interpreting the data. But if you combine dodgy data and poor interpretation, 50% of them aren't actually giving the athlete anything meaningful and useful.
Yeah, there's the really bad trio where it's like equipment that's not that doesn't give you enough accuracy and reliability, then badly collected data, and then bad interpretation.
Yeah.
And there's definitely been a few that we've seen that are, don't know, maybe if you've had a test that's dodgy, send it to us.
Yeah.
We want
Bad
to see.
protocols, bad
Yeah.
equipment, or uncalibrated equipment,
Yeah.
and or poorly calibrated equipment and bad interpretation. That's your golden trio.
Yeah.
But I think I think increasingly people will realize, oh, actually, people are getting smarter. They will know the difference between this is a good test and this is a bad test. And I think there'll be more growth there, certainly at the elite end. The elites have always done it to an extent, but I think it will still become more and more of a thing, and it will just become systematic. Every 2 months, you go and get a test. You go, right, what am I trying to achieve in this block? Test at the start, test at the end. Right, I improved what I wanted to improve. Great. Now, what's the new starting point? What we're working on next? You do another test, and it becomes just part of this is how you train properly as an elite athlete. And that does happen in some places, but not in the UK. From most people are not doing that. I think if you go to Germany, there's a lot more of this. If you go, to certain countries, there are examples of where this is done pretty well, but it's just not systematic at all. People dip into physiology, and it's a bit, I just see where I'm at. And like, well, if you want to see where you're at, just go and do a race. Right? That's how you see where you're at. If you want to know why you're doing what you're doing and what is your current strengths and weaknesses, you do a physiology test. So I think, that'll become more integrated, but then there'll be better application of that data as well. So you will, I think it will get much more heavily paired with the nutrition side of things. To go into our next category, nutrition, I think someone will do a physiology test. They will work out their typical energy expenditure for a given speed. It will then sync with their watch or with some nutritional app, and it will tell you, right, this is your nutritional requirements for the day. This is how much carbohydrates you're going to need ahead of this hard session.
Yeah.
I reckon that's the direction it goes.
Yeah. That'd be good. It'd be good if, it's a bit more systematic, top to bottom.
What about, I reckon we do environment next. Altitude and heat, what's happening there? Everyone's obsessed with heat at the minute, including us. How's that going to go?
I think that people are a bit more targeted with altitude. That there's a bit of a better understanding of an individual, because hopefully more people are doing hemoglobin mass testing, and you could build up a bit of a picture. Again, this is like coming back to the case study. I'm sure the data is out there. I know the data is out there with some athletes of their responses to altitude camps. And it would be really good if that could be published, whether it's one athlete or, a group of 4 or 5, of, how much of an increase they have each time they go to the camp, because I think it's different. And I think there'll be a bit of a better understanding of that, and then application of it as well.
Yeah. I think it becomes just, again, it becomes more systematic. You do altitude at this time, then you do heat, then you do altitude, then you do heat, and you're always maintaining or building some level of hemoglobin, hematological adaptation. Like you
Yeah.
said, there's so much data, all these governing bodies. I know British athletics have got bucketfuls of longitudinal data on hemoglobin mass scores from altitude, but it's never going to go anywhere because that's elite level performance. And you don't want to give another country an advantage by seeing the data you've collected. I think
Yeah.
I think environmental will become more of it. And I think actually high volume training combined with altitude or maybe heat will be combined, because you can just run slower but get a similar physiological stimulus in terms of VO2, heart rate, etc. So actually the load on your muscles will be less, but you can get the same mitochondrial response, capillarization response, etc.
Yeah, I guess maybe there's a bit more of a mixed methods approach in terms of especially yeah, seeing the way our summers are going, right? Like you you maybe do a couple of runs a week slightly later in the day so that you get a bit of heat stimulus, like active heat stimulus. And then maybe a couple of times a week you do passive heat. And then maybe then you're also sleeping in an altitude tent or something. There's mixed methods, and there's probably going to be a bit of, hopefully at that point there's a bit of a better understanding of combining them, because everything's completely in isolation at the moment. You don't want to to understand them mechanistically, you have to have the same controlled stimulus or controlled intervention across the study. But maybe by 2031 someone's done a combined active and passive like bit of work, or combined passive and altitude like in a training block.
I reckon it'll be more sequential than like combined all together. But there's definitely going to be more heat and more altitude. I mean, Josh Kerr's got his room has been built into an altitude chamber, basically, isn't it?
Yeah.
That sort of stuff is going to be commonplace. There's already altitude hotels. I'm pretty sure Loughborough have got an altitude hotel, right? Where you can set the environmental conditions of the room depending on the athlete. There's certainly places in Europe where I know that happens.
Yeah, there's nitrogen houses and stuff, isn't there? So
so I reckon that will be lent into. Cool. I mean, I reckon to close it off, we talk a little bit about software. And by that, I probably primarily mean just using data and AI. And I know we did a whole episode on AI, which I think we still need to do a follow-up for. I know a couple of our patrons have reached out to tell us where we've got things wrong and what we, how they think AI can be best used. And I think that's definitely something we want to do. And I haven't forgotten, if you're listening to this episode, I do really want to do that. It's just been a bit busy period. But I think AI definitely becomes part of training much more, but I see it as joining the dots together. That's why I think it becomes useful. It's for integration of that physiology data, the environment you're running in, your nutrition, and it helps just give you guardrails. And it goes, right, based upon what you've done, these are the action points you should probably be following. And you go, and then you also, you for example, you're in Garmin Connect and you're programming in your session for that day, for what you're going to do the next day. And AI is flashing up going, that's actually a really big dose of eccentric loading, but your body probably isn't ready for based upon what you've done in the last 6 weeks. Or maybe it's because it's linked with your physiology data, it will go, right, you've got this session planned tomorrow. This is your carbohydrate goals for today to make sure that you've got enough glycogen in the system to execute that session. That's why I think I don't think it will necessarily be setting the training. I think I think at a high level, there will always be a coach setting that. But I think it gets prompted and guided by AI using all the rest of your data, all synced together.
Yeah, I guess some of it takes some hardware as well. Like thinking like there's the scales that like don't, or you can set it to not actually see the weight, but it sends it to your Garmin Connect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like maybe you're weighing yourself, and especially you're weighing yourself in the morning, and then you can figure out hydration status from that and just general weight trends. And then it's saying, okay, like drink a little bit more water this morning, and you've got a session coming up to have a bit more carbohydrate. And then like you said, when you're designing that session on Garmin Connect or Training Peaks, it shows your load and how that would fit in and how that would change. Your sort of I know it already shows it, but like acute and chronic load impacts of that session. And then maybe also things like heat acclimation are actually built in. It's looking at the weather forecast and saying, okay, that's going to actually be quite a big dose of heat. Maybe you can say that, okay, I'm going to be doing it in an air conditioned gym, or I'm going to be outside and it's going to be sunny, and it's taking into account meteopace, and it's able to say, okay, actually you want to run at this heart rate. It's going to be, a slightly higher dose because it's hot today. And maybe you're not heat acclimated as much. So like just bringing in everything, which will rely on good data going in as well.
Yeah, definitely. I that's what I see the future in AI is just better integration and use of all this data, because we're getting so much data, but like we said earlier, half the time there's just not a use case for it. Like maybe your cadence and your ground contact times from your watch become useful when you've got the processing power of, suddenly normally your cadence is a 180 and your ground contact time is 210 milliseconds, but suddenly we've seen a change here. Like, why is that? Is that actually going to lead to it? Is that a precursor to injury because you're a bit fatigued, your cadence has dropped, your ground contact time's gone up, and those changes probably indicate you are quite fatigued and there's something going on. Maybe not tell you exactly what, but just a flag going, just have a look at this. Go take a second check at this data point, because at the minute, to go and look at absolutely every metric that is being spat out for every activity and all the trackers, your Whoop band, all this sort of stuff, it's just not possible for one individual to be tracking all that stuff and making good decisions based upon that data.
Yeah, I think it was maybe a DC Rainmaker post was talking about how there was one rogue data point in this Oura ring, and then that threw off like everything. So
I saw that.
Just being able to iron out that sort of noise, I guess, and wrong readings. There'll still be crap stuff, won't there? Like you'll still be getting rubbish GPS data when you're under some trees, and you'll be doing like a VO2 max rep, and your watch will be saying you're running at 5 minutes a K.
Which might be VO2 max pace for some people. But,
I'm talking about you.
For me specifically. Yeah, there we go.
That used to happen to you by Cardiff Parkrun, didn't it?
Oh, the start of Cardiff Parkrun is awful. Yeah. Tell you what has got better, which is definitely a software, not hardware thing, I think, is the optical heart rate monitors. I've been a couple of times recently. I just can't be bothered. I've my arm strap that I've been using, my Polar OH1. I've just misplaced it, and a chest strap. I can't always be bothered to wear a chest strap. But the data I get from an optical is good, whereas on the same watch a few years ago, it was not good.
Yeah,
definitely think something's gone on there. Garmin have been doing something.
Yeah.
Cool. That's for future then. 5 years' time.
Yeah.
We'll come back to this episode. 5 or 10 years' time, we'll come back to this episode and see how much of that's come true.
Yeah. Wonder what we're doing in 5 years' time.
Still trying to break 210 for me, I think. I'm a cyclist by then.
Yeah. I don't know. You might have 80mm shoes by that point. You might be.
Well, 210 will actually be worth a 215. Yeah.
You'll be a 2-hour marathoner by that point. 80mm shoes.
Yeah,
Super
maybe.
responder to the 80 mil.
What, Nike have bought off World Athletics to allow 80 mil shoes? Is that
Yeah,
right?
probably. It seems
Yeah,
that's where every sport's going, isn't it? So I
yeah.
don't know.
Right, before we get cancelled, let's not get a lawsuit against us. Let's
yeah,
stop it there, shall we?
cool. Catch everyone next time.
Yeah.